The only reason that you're able to cheat in school is because the teachers allow it. They love it when you cheat because it makes their lives easier. If teachers didn't want you to cheat, they wouldn't give you worksheets and they wouldn't give you multiple choice tests. Welcome back to Capo TV. When I first thought about making this video, the truth about cheating in high school, I sat down and I thought about it and I wound up writing over 2,000 words on the subject. As you can see, I've thought about this a lot. I'm a substitute teacher and I see cheating every single day. But it's not really cheating in my eyes. It's just students working with the system that they're given. If school didn't want you to cheat, then they wouldn't use a universal curriculum and teachers would not rely on factory-made worksheets that any student can find the answers to online. It's as simple as that. You as a student are just an input-output machine. The teacher pumps you full of information and you're expected to vomit that back up on a test. Why would you want to do that? If you're watching this video, I think you may have figured this out already. The game of school, here's the game of school. Know what's going to be on the test, learn the information that's going to be on the test, take the test, put down the information that you learned on the test, and then as soon as the test is over, forget about everything. Why do you do that? And you might not be thinking of this consciously, but you're doing it because of this reason. Teachers don't grade what you know. They grade what you put down on a test, or they grade what you put down on the blanks in a worksheet. It doesn't matter what you think or feel about a subject, as long as you put down the right scratch marks on the paper. So usually when I'm substituting and I see someone cheating, they're not really cheating in the traditional sense of gaining an unfair advantage over another person. They're merely working within the system that is given to them. So why do students cheat? It's the easy way out to collaborate on a worksheet, work together on a worksheet and have one person do a page and another person do a page and then another person do another page and then just swap answers. It's also easier, if you're allowed, to take out your phone, type in a few words from the worksheet and find the entire thing online. It's no wonder why students take the easy way out when it's given to them right away. A teacher cannot be so dumb to think that a student's not going to look up the answers to a worksheet or a student's not going to copy from a friend when that friend is done before them. That's just foolishness. Again, the school system doesn't care what you know. It doesn't grade what you know. It only grades the information that you put down on a piece of paper. It doesn't matter how that information got there. It doesn't matter whether or not you understand the information that you wrote down. All that matters is that you wrote something down or you filled in a bubble on the test. That is what is graded. As a substitute, I have seen very little actual reading, very little actual writing, and very little actual thinking and discussing of a topic. Public school does not prepare students to do any of these things. Instead, public school encourages a cheating culture. Why is that? Because in order to grade a reading, writing, and thinking assignment, a teacher needs to be a good reader, writer, and thinker him or herself. It also requires a lot of time. Now, we can debate some other time on how well teachers can read, write, and think, but the thing I want to focus on here is the time aspect. I wrote down some numbers on my little notes here, and I'm just going to read them off to you real quick. So in a typical high school block schedule, teachers have 3 classes per semester, 5 days per week. Each class has about 25 students, give or take. That's 75 students a teacher is responsible for in a given semester. Doesn't sound like a lot, but wait until you hear this. As I've said before, teachers are required to produce data so that the administrators can look at that data and judge how well a teacher is teaching. That data is also used by the state and federal governments to determine how much money a school gets. So the more data a teacher makes, the better. In order to satisfy those data requirements, teachers need to have graded assignments on a daily basis, at least 1 per student, right? So let's look at the math on that. That's a minimum of 1 item per day per student times 75 students per day times 5 days a week. That's 375 individual items at minimum that a teacher has to look at on a weekly basis. This doesn't include any ongoing projects or tests or other sort of assignments that might be going on in class. Even for the most hardcore teachers, It's ridiculously time consuming to look at 375 pieces of paper. God forbid if they're double-sided worksheets or packets. But anyway, given the minimum of 375 items, if a teacher spends just 2 minutes looking at each item, that's 12.5 hours of time to get through all of that stuff, let alone actually grading it if a letter grade's needed, or putting a little check mark on it, or a check plus, or a check minus, or whatever. That's 12.5 hours of time outside of school a teacher must spend to grade your assignments. Here's something I've heard a lot as a substitute, and it makes perfect sense when you think of it this way. Students will say, Mr. So-and-so doesn't even look at these. I can write anything down. As long as I write something down, he'll just give me a check and hand it back to me. Can you see why? What teacher's going to want to spend 12.5 hours painstaking? Let me back up. That 12.5 hours only assumes 2 minutes per item. If they're really going to read each individual thing on every piece of paper that you hand back to them, that's going to be probably days worth of work for them. They're not going to do that. Guess what? Teachers are in the same boat as you as a student. They want to take the easy way out. They want to relieve some of this pressure. So what do? They give you more worksheets that have an absolute correct answer key, and usually they have their answer key with them, and when they go down the sheet, they just put it side by side. If they notice something's different, they make an X on it. They've got a little chart that says you got this many wrong, give them this grade, wada, and there you go. They take the easy way out too. The only reason that you're able to cheat in school is because the teachers allow it. I don't care what the teachers say. They love it when you cheat because it makes their lives easier. If teachers didn't want you to cheat, they wouldn't give you worksheets and they wouldn't give you multiple choice tests. They would make you read, write, and reason your way through the class. But that takes so much time and effort for everyone, so they're not going to do it. Maybe I should have put this up front because I'm sure very few people are still watching at this point. But it's the truth. Whatever. I'm just going to scratch myself too. So if you're still watching, let's learn a little bit more about when cheating in school will stop. Cheating in school will stop only when teachers and administrators and the school system wants it to stop. The way that I see it right now, they don't want it to stop because it's just so easy to go through the motions of going to the copy machine, making 50, 60, 70, 80 copies of whatever you want, and handing it to the student, telling them, here you go, here's your work, learn. That's not the way teaching works. That's not the way learning works. That's the way school works, though, because it's easy for everyone. The students can get done the work quick without much grumbling. The teachers can grade it quick without much time wasted. And everyone's happy because they've got their little points of data to hand off to the next person in line. I hate to leave this bombshell at the end, but I'm going to do it anyway because it can be another video itself. But the main objective of school is not education. I mean, based on the way cheating is handled and cheating is encouraged, and I use cheating loosely still because to me it's not really cheating if everyone's creating the conditions to take the path of least resistance. That's not really cheating. That's just being smart and not wasting your time. But the main objective of school is not education then. Because if it were, then there would be no such thing as an honors class, an AP class, a college prep class, and a general education class, and a special education class. Well, the special education class I can see for those with real learning disabilities or other impairments, but for everyone else, there should only be one class, and it should be an honors level class. All students should be expected to learn on the same level. Like, that would be education. Right now, it's just, oh, if you're a dumb kid, you go in the dumb kid class. If you're a smart kid, you go in the smart kid class, thereby keeping the smart kid smart and the dumb kid dumb. That's what school's about. It's not about education. It's about making sure everyone's in their place, everyone's under control, and everyone's life is as easy as possible if you work for the school. What do you think about cheating in high school? Have you ever cheated in high school? Is cheating in high school a good thing, a bad thing? How do you think we should stop cheating in high school? I'll tell you how, but I kind of already did. More reading, more writing, more reasoning, require less lazy teachers. It would require more studious students, and I don't see that happening anytime soon. So the final takeaway message here is that school makes cheating easy. You need to do it as much as possible while it lasts. And if anyone gets on your case about it, show them this video and tell them it's the school's fault that you're cheating, because it really is. All right. So until next time, thanks for watching. See you later. Bye.